I was reading a book the other day. Reading a book? Yes, it's all about civilization or something. A nutty kind of a book. Do you know that the guy says that machinery is going to take the place of every profession?
What do you say?
No.
Tomorrow night?
No.
Next year?
No.
Good. Because by me it's this way. The longer they know, the harder they yes.
Well, I don't want to be honorable with you unless it's absolutely necessary.
Using his vast knowledge of history and politics, we start our day off right with motivational speaker Richard Battle.
Love having him on. Mr. Battle, how are you today, sir?
Good morning, Al. We're doing great. Thanks for having us bat lead off again.
You're as close as I get down to the floodings in Texas. How far are you from the horrors that happened down there last week with the flooding?
Well, we're about an hour and a half away from where the biggest event happened, although there were some flooding actions closer than that.
Prayers go out to all of those folks. Texas is so vast. I guess I'm trying to compare what happened down there to stuff here in Minnesota. Hurricanes, if you get a hurricane, you got like 5-6 days notice, right? You got the thing coming, it's a tropical storm, and the weather guy gets to talk to you for days about it, coming. In Minnesota, our biggest thing is probably a tornado. We might get, we get the watch that, hey, things are set up to be there, and you'll get hours worth of that. You get a warning, you probably have 5 or 10 minutes to get your butt to a basement or someplace safe. And in the city, even in Blue Earth, you can hear the warning signs. I mean, the thing goes off. It's loud as all get out. I can't imagine they can in the country, where the farms are. I don't know how they handle that. I can't imagine there's a system out there in the middle of this valley that could warn people. Is there, or is it phones going off? What's the system in Texas to let you know when something bad's going on?
Well, in that particular area, it was phone notifications about flash flood warnings and watches. But again, it happened in the middle of the night, and it was a remnants of a storm that came off the Pacific Ocean through Mexico and came up through South Texas. And normally what happens is we get bands of rain, and you may get 2, 3, 4 inches, and then it'll stop and you'll get another band. You may get another inch or so. But this system, the center of this system came up and just sat right over that area and dumped upwards of 6 months of rain in about 2 or 3 hours. And that beautiful river valley sits between hills on both sides. And it basically funneled everything down through that particular area, unfortunately, at the worst possible time.
And again, timing is a lot. I say you might be able to see the rain coming, but it would happen like 3, 4 in the morning, right? I mean, the kids are sleeping, your phones are probably off, heck, you're at camp, probably got them plugged in or can't even have them. That is just so sad. Our prayers to all those people out there that are being impacted.
Absolutely. Thank you. And yes, the kids don't have phones while they're at the camp, so only the leaders have them. So there were some watches and warnings, but it was obviously insufficient for that particular event.
Well, and so fast. Yeah, what do you do? Maybe your phone goes off. Watch out for, I read somewhere, some folks, it didn't even rain over them. They might have got that thing, watch out, and you're like, what? It isn't even raining, and because it rained so hard north of them that it came through, and you're like, just so tough. Man, okay.
That happens a lot in this part of the country because people will get out. They're in the river. It could be any river, and all of a sudden there's a wall of water coming at them that came out of a rain event someplace else.
Yeah, just amazing. All right, our prayers for all those folks. Today we're going to talk about the impact that most of us are going to have, the influence that we have on the next generation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think all of us impact people, and we impact people beyond our lifetimes even. The question is how. And a lot of times our culture and what we see in entertainment and things of that nature want us to focus on financial impact and want us to focus on chasing money and building up as much money as possible. When I think that our impact is broader and better than that in areas that are not financial. And so I think it's good to kind of pause every once in a while and think about the ways we impact people so we can do a better job of impacting them and living richer lives.
Is that, and I'm not trying to rip capitalism, love capitalism, and go USA, but a lot of that comes from capitalism, the idea that we almost always judge ourselves by the number of zeros behind our name, right? Isn't that
Well,
bad?
and I think that's a fallacy. And we also are prompted to judge ourselves compared to others, which is another fallacy. And as we've talked about before, the only thing I judge myself against is, am I better than I was yesterday? And what do I need to do to be better tomorrow than I am today? And when I do that and only consider myself and trying to be better tomorrow, then I'm happier than if I think about the guy next door that has better cars and boats and things than I might have, because that's not what is important in the big scheme of things.
One of our yearly talks with my church group is, can you be happy in the cardboard box? If you'd lived underneath a bridge and you had nothing going for you, you just enough to get by, but you found a great cardboard box to sleep in. Could you be grateful for that you've got something? And we do that. Being grateful is a very tough thing. Can you be grateful where you're at, even if it's just a cardboard box under a bridge? Well, it's kind of hard for kids to wrap their heads around, but the guy next to you doesn't have a cardboard box. You know what I'm saying? Can you be grateful?
Well, and gratitude is the first step, I believe, versus the sense of entitlement that we see so prevalent today. We're not owed anything by our country or anybody else. And so we have to go out and pursue what we get, but we have to be grateful for what we've been given. Also, starting, as we talked about last week, our independence and freedom.
There you go.
That is so unique in world history. That's the foundation of everything else, and the opportunity that we have that so many others haven't had.
I love that, because like you say, if nothing else, you got to be grateful you're just born in the United States compared to any place else in the world, because people are busting in to get here. You should be grateful for that. You talk about actions. It's one thing to say, okay, I'm happy, whatever. Your actions speak louder than words.
Well, that's what Mark Twain said. Actions speak louder than words, but not nearly so often. And so many people will talk about things they're going to do and never do them. But the people who really have an impact are the people that don't talk as much about what they're going to do, and they just do it. And so we want to promote action versus waiting for other people to provide things for us. And that's part of the gratitude versus entitlement mentality also.
But we're talking the influence on the future. So this gratitude, your actions, all that is a way of showing the next generation what's going on. Is that what they're going to get out of it? Is like they see the old man taking action, not talking so much, actually getting things done, that the old man says thank you for whatever he's got the box. Is that what you're talking about? Just the example for the younger kids?
Well,
younger generation?
Absolutely. How we live every day is an example, and everyone's an example to somebody else. The only question is how. And it was interesting when my daughter was about 3 years old. I first noticed that she looked to the 5 and 6 year old kids for an example, and she would mimic what they did. And so those 5 and 6 year old kids were example, even though they didn't know it. Another great one that we write about is Joshua Chamberlain, who the anniversary was last week on July 2nd, the second day of Gettysburg, when he led the 20th Maine to a victory that prevented the Confederacy from winning the Battle of Gettysburg. And it was so heroic, and he was so well esteemed by his men and the people that followed him, that for the rest of his life, they honored him. And he was elected 4 terms governor of Maine because of that leadership and the example that he set and lived. It changed all of those people's lives.
I love that. Let's go to break. We'll talk more about this. What we're talking about today with Mr. Battle is the impact you can do today and the influence on the future. And all that doesn't necessarily mean anything financial. We'll talk about other ways coming up next on The Al Travis Show.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmeriCanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc. Midwest Money Management and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
Easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
We've got Mr. Battle on the program talking about how we can influence the next generation, how we make a difference, and it doesn't have to come with money. I presume some of this has to do with helping others, straight up.
Well, yes, and putting others ahead of self is something that not only gives impact, but it helps us. And so when we serve others, all the negative thoughts that we have going through our minds about ourselves go away, if you will. And I learned this after losing my son years ago, that when I thought about myself and my loss, I hurt. But when I thought about helping others get through the loss of that situation, I didn't hurt because I was caring about them. Absolutely. And so anytime I find myself feeling down, I try to do something that will help others, and that's the best way I can get out of that down feeling.
It is a quick way of realizing people have it tougher than you. If you can find a way that they need help with this or that, then you realize, you know what, others have had it worse. Others will have it worse down the road. You just got to hang in there. I love that.
Well, and as I mentioned before, I had a guy I served in the Guard with. I had lost my son, and yes, that was horrible to me. And when I was talking to him, he lost 3 kids in one night to a house fire. Yeah. And so it can always be worse.
See, and that's letting the big guy be in charge. You tell that story, you haven't for a while, I guess, about doing that radio show about your son and the passing and getting that phone call because the guy called the radio station. I got to talk to that guy, and they believe enough to forward your phone. And all of a sudden, some guy's saying you pretty much saved his life. You gave him that hope that he needed. You don't know when it's going to happen. You just got to keep plugging along.
That's exactly right. And so for we who are believers, we believe there's a bigger purpose in what we do, serving him for today and eternally. And I think that's something that gives us hope and encouragement as well, that there is a purpose and opportunity in everything we experience. And that while we are not in control of everything, believers believe he is in control. And so there are opportunities and reasons for everything we go through.
And you tell a great story about the slicing off the roast that can you tell us, because this is my point about the future. I want you to tell the story and think about it this way, ladies and gentlemen, is that if this roast thing can go 4 or 5 generations down, think what some of the moral stuff you're going to teach your children. Tell this story. I love this story about the roast.
It's a little off, a little bit different, but I'll adapt it. And it's about we forget why we do things after about 2 generations. And we do it just based on it's always been done that way. And the story is about the guy who comes home from work and he's talking to his wife while she's making dinner. And all of a sudden she pulls a meat cleaver out and she hacks the end of the roast off. And he says, "Honey, why'd you do that?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. Mom always did it that way." And then he says, "Well, let's call Mama." So they call her, tell her. She says, "Well, she didn't know. Grandma always did it that way." So they call Grandma and tell her the story. And, "Grandma, why'd you cut the end of the roast off?" And she said, "Because it wouldn't fit in the pan." And so we have to also remember why we do things as well and pass that why along to our children and grandchildren as well, so that we're always doing things for a purpose, not just because it's always been done that way.
Everyone listening knows that thing. It's at work, it's the office, it's something, we always done it that way. And that's okay when it's the right thing. And that's my point, is if the roast can be cut every time, no why or not, we're doing it because that's what we do. How much different would that be when you describe to your children, the reason we do this, help others, is because, and you set that example. That's what's going to go down to the point where 2-3 generations from now, why is it you guys are always helping out at the old folks home? Because that's what we do. You know what I'm saying? I just think that can go so much further than the roast. I just love the roast story. Does that make any sense?
Well, yes. And what happens is when we realize that we are an example and people watch what we do, and what we do has an impact over a longer period of time than our lives, it changes our calculations and our decisions because we don't fall prey to this entertainment and cultural appeal of if it feels good, do it now type thing. And if what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, which is the biggest lie of all. So we realize that everything we do makes a difference. The question is why, and we want to have the most positive difference we can and leave that. And one of the stories, and I'll tell, is about, I love this line out of the movie Broken Trail, where Robert Duvall's character's an uncle and he's teaching his nephew the horse trail driving business. And the kid says, after one calamity, "This drive's getting less profitable every day." And Robert Duvall says, "Son, you never measure wealth using money." And that's so true. We need money. We like it. It helps us. But it's so true that our lives are not determined by that alone.
I thoroughly believe that whether we mean it or not or want, we will affect it 100 years down the road. Positive, negative, that little pebble in the water thing, and it ripples out. It does. It may be huge. It may not be huge. But I believe somehow we will affect the next generation down the road. You just kind of got to decide whether you want that to be a positive or a negative and act accordingly.
Well, you have to decide over whether the things you're doing will have a negative impact or not.
Okay.
And I don't know if we have time to tell that story or not, or if we're getting close to the end.
I got a minute to go. If you can do it in a minute.
Well, we better not do it.
All right. We'll do it next week.
Talk about the important things.
Yeah, AmeriCANS Who Made America, a 19th Century Growth, Division, and Reunification. By the way, I was just watching, it's on the History Channel, I'm sure. I'm going to forget the guy. They're doing a big series on the Civil War, and I'm watching it now. It's unbelievable, almost battle by battle. It is fantastic. This book is going to teach you more than you ever thought you needed to know, but you do, to teach your children. AmeriCANS Who Made America, 19th Century Growth, Division, and Reunification. Kelsey Graham is the one who's narrating it, by the way. How do I pick up your book, sir?
Well, all books at richardbattle.com are signed. If you'd like one inscribed for a gift, which we have often, email me, richard@richardbattle.com, after you order. Everything's at Amazon, all 12 books, Kindle versions, audio versions. This audio and Kindle will be out within the next month or so.
Fantastic. I appreciate you being on the show as always, my friend. We'll do it again next Wednesday.
My pleasure. God bless America.
There are many ways to explore